On Saturday, April 16th, 1977, the Weirdos, the Zeros, and the Germs played a show. I get emotional. At the Orpheum Theater in Hollywood. Sparking the big bang of the infamous LA punk scene. Thank you. Here's my story. Okay, so it starts, let me go back a little bit. In late 1976, I started writing some songs. Now, I had just learned guitar. I had only been playing it for a short time, and I wrote a bunch of songs. And I was very inspired by bands like Iggy Pop and the Stooges, the New York Dolls, and the Ramones. I wrote A Life of Crime, a song called Teenage, Do the Dance, and I'm Not Like You. And I found a Italian-made guitar. It was a Vox Phantom 4. It had a built-in distortion switch. And I plugged it into an old Vibroverb Fender amp and turned the volume up to 10. All the way up. Early in 1977, along with my North Hollywood High School buddy, John Denny, and his younger brother, Dix, and my good friend from CalArts, David Trout, I taught him the songs, and we started playing in Dave's living room. We weren't a garage band, we were a living room band in Reseda. And then it sounded great, and we thought, well, let's get in a rehearsal studio so we could turn up a little more. So we found a studio. I found a studio at Gower Gulch, up this very, very, very long flight of stairs, a little tiny studio called Half Moon, and we put our amps, the four of us put all our amps and speakers in a wall, stood in front of them, and just started. I put the songs in an order, so we had a set of about 8 songs. Dave Trout wrote a few songs, and John and I wrote a song, and we started rehearsing for our first show, right? And in late March of 1977, we just had finished rehearsing we just got through our set. The door flies open and 3 guys walk in, and I look at him and I recognize them. It's the Nerves, this band called the Nerves. I knew because I saw an ad in Rolling Stone magazine for their 45, and I had sent away for it. I sent them $5 and got the single. All right? So they come in and they're like, wow, you guys sound fantastic. We were just downstairs checking out the soundstage. We do this thing called the Hollywood Punk Palace. And it was sort of their like pop-up showcase. They're trying to get a record deal. And they're like, we're going to do a show there this coming Friday, and we want you guys on the bill. You guys got to, and they're looking around, they're going, where's your drummer? We heard a drummer. We had no drummer. What's the name of your band? The Weirdos. Okay, that's perfect. No drummer, the Weirdos, perfect. So, the show was with this band, and they said, and you guys we're gonna headline, but you guys are gonna be right before us. We're like, okay. So they had a band called the Zippers, and they had a band called the Dills, and they had a band from Pittsburgh, a bar band called Short Ice, which no one remembers. And they drove all the way out here from Pittsburgh to play that night. So that Friday we took some clothes. We said we better look weird, and so everything was sort of like flashing patterns. And there was a T-shirt shop. I lived right by here at Melrose and Fairfax. There was a T-shirt shop. I went in there, and I saw they had like you just pick something out and they would iron it on. It was Peter Frampton. I said, all right, I want a Peter Frampton t-shirt, and I got a can of a fluorescent orange spray paint and put an X across it. And that's what I wore on our first show. And so we do this show at Gower Gulch, and there's like, just a few people there, our friends, family, and I had a plan. I said, okay, guys, we'll stack up our amps. We had no drummer. I said, let's stack up our amps, turn everything on. We'll walk out with our guitar cords, right, and plug in. And it just would screech and squeal. And we played our little set of 8 songs, and everyone loved it. And that night we met Fast Freddy, Debbie Scow, and Tom Gardner. They were with this little fanzine called Backdoor Man. And so the Nerves were like, okay, you guys were great. We're going to do another show, but this time it's going to be at the Orpheum Theater and with the Zippers, and we're going to do Friday and Saturday. Next Saturday night, so this is like the first show is on the 2nd of April, now this is like the 8th and 9th of April. So we were like, okay, so we go do this show, we're still no drummer, and it's 2 shows a night. So after that, now we have 5 shows under our belt. And they're like, okay, we're gonna play one more show, next Saturday night on the 16th. We're like, okay. And they said, and we're gonna do it again with the Zippers, and we got a band called the Zeros from San Diego, from Chula Vista. And we were like, all right. And so we called up this drummer named Nicky Beat. He had just left a Kim Fallu band called Venus and the Razor Blades. And we auditioned him this whole thing happened in a period of 2 weeks, right? So April 2nd, now we got a show on the 8th and the 9th, did that, and now we auditioned Nicky. He's perfect. He's like our Keith Moon. He like pounds the drums. He got it. And it sounded great. So I get a call from Jack Lee of the Nerves. He goes, hey, Cliff, you know what? We're not going to do this show. And the Zippers aren't going to do it. We're going to go out on tour, and we want to save our money. I'm like, oh. And he goes, but if you guys want to do the show, just go down there. It's $90, and you can have the stage that night. I said, oh. So I thought, well, $90 was a lot of money, and I only made like $7.50 an hour at my job at Art Services. So I said, all right. So I went down there, and the guy that owns the club is a guy I went to high school with named Richard Niedfuhrer. And so I pay the $90. He goes, all right, you guys can do the show. And we had already made the flyers. The flyers say the Nerves, the Weirdos, the Zippers, the Zeros. And we're like, well, we already spent the money getting the flyers printed up. We had already passed them out. So, and the night before the show, there was an Iggy Pop concert at the Santa Monica Civic, and John said, well, I'm going to the show, and he took a bunch of flyers and passed them out there. And also on I think early that week, we auditioned Nicky Beat. When we auditioned Nicky Beat, we brought him over to my house. I lived just right down the street here, to my apartment, and we said, all right, Nicky, you sound great. We want you in the band. He goes, yeah, okay. And Nicky had like really long curly hair. And so we're just hanging out in my apartment, and he goes, hey, can I use the bathroom? I said, sure. So he goes in the bathroom. A minute later, I smell some awful smell. And it wasn't, like from going to the bathroom, it was something else. And I walk in there, and he's like burning his hair off with a cigarette lighter to seal the deal. Right? So then Nicky's in the band. We're good. And then we I heard that there's a record store was going to open in North Hollywood called Bomp Records. So I said, hey guys, let's go down there. It's the same day of the show. And so we got in our stage gear. Now at this point, we'd been working on clothes where we spray painted them and cut things off and put it back together, and we used animal prints and fluorescent colors and geometric shapes. And we sort of looked like this. All right? Should I pass it around? And that's a photo from when we were at Bomp Records that day. And we walk into Bomp Records, we're in our gear, we're hanging out. Huh? Which one am I? I'm right in the middle there. And so we walk in, we're like hanging out. In walks the Damned from England. And we're standing around there, and I had already knew who Greg Shaw was because he put out a magazine that I subscribed to called Bomp Magazine, or Who Put the Bomp. It was, I still have my copies, you know. And so then I see Dave Trout is standing near the entrance, and he's like standing there. Dave's talking to this kid who has a pair of ripped up jeans with about 300 safety pins in it, and he's wearing the shirt that says The Germs. And Bobby Pin. That was Bobby Pin. Eventually Darby crashed. And Dave comes over to me and goes, hey, those guys are a band called The Germs. And we were like, well, so did I say that the nerves and the zippers had backed out, right? Yeah. So we were like, we had confirmed the zeros were going to come out, but we knew nothing about the zeros, but okay, we had the zeros. And we're like, hey guys, they were like, they had a friend of theirs with them named Pleasant Geeman, and she was like, you guys, get on the show with the Weirdos. And so we're talking to them, and so I booked the Germs for the show, right? I said, all right, and they were like, well, we haven't rehearsed yet. And I said, I'm looking at them, I go, it doesn't matter, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be performance art, and I was right. That's how it turned out. And so that night, you know, at 8 o'clock, we're at the club. It's not a club. It's this little theater. The Orpheum Theater was like this tiny 99-seat theater that, you know, they would do like experimental theater and show experimental and art films and porno films, and they'd have music there. So it was right across the street on Sunset Boulevard, across from Tower Records. So at around 8 p.m., the Germs come on the stage. And they were horrible. They couldn't get through a song. And sitting in the front row, there was just like a few people in the theater at that point. And I'm standing there off stage. I'm like really kind of enjoying it. They were cool, you know. And there was something there, but they were off. It was horrible. They couldn't get through a song. And I met there was Bobby Pin and Pat Smear on guitar, you know, who would eventually be in Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then there was this a teenage girl with them named Belinda Carlisle, just sitting there. Belinda hands Bobby a jar of peanut butter, and he's bare chested. He opens it up. And they're playing or trying to play, and he starts smearing peanut butter on his chest, and then he's like threatening to stick the microphone in it and throw it at the girls. And Richard, who I went to high school with, Niedenfuhrer, walks up to me and goes, get them off the stage right now, or I'm shutting the show down. And I'm like, oh no, I gotta pull. So we had to hook him off the stage, you know. I'm like, sorry guys, but it's the peanut butter, you know. And then they go, oh, okay. So they get off the stage, and then Richard kicks them out of the club. And Pat eventually told me just a few years ago, I said, where were you guys? He said, well, we just went across the street to Tower Records. So all right. So now it's like a little while later, 9 o'clock, a few more people are getting into the Orpheum Theater, and the Zeros come on. Now the Zeros, oh my God, they were so together. They were cute. They called them the Mexican Ramones, and they were from Chula Vista, and they were all like teenagers, and they wore black and white and skinny ties, and they had songs, you're a wimp, beat your heart out. They had these great songs, and we're like, wow, it's fantastic. And then they got a great response from the crowd. And then there's like Greg Shaw of Bump Records is there, and Rodney Bingenheimer, and Kim Fowley, right? And the Damned are sitting there too, with their manager Jake Rivera. And so then, and Greg Shaw signed them to his new record label, and from that show. Anyway, so then now we come on, and we're like, this is the first show. We've already had 5 sets under our belt. This is our first show with our new drummer, Nicky Beat. Rodney comes up. He wants to introduce us. And because the Sunday before, my girlfriend, eventually my wife, Gracie, she called him up, Rodney on the Rocks live. He would take phone calls. She called him up and was telling him about the Weirdos. She goes, "Oh, wow, the Weirdos. Yeah, I got to see the Weirdos, And so then we get through our set, went pretty good, and we walk off stage, and there's Captain Sensible, the bass player from the Damned. He shoves us back on stage, says, "I want to do an encore with you guys." And we're like, "What song?" And I started playing the Seeds classic, Pushing Too Hard. I just started playing the riff. John's going, "Push it too hard, push it too hard," and then what? Captain Sensible, we had given him a guitar, he plugged in an amp, and to the amusement of the rest of the band, who was sitting there in front of him, he's just squealing out of tune and just, and you know what? I have a recording of this whole set, including that. And wait, here's the poster. Look at that, $2. What a deal!
Here, pass it in.
Oh yeah. And here's the marquee. So we're like high as a kite. We're like, wow, what happened? We go back. John and I are standing at the back of the club. There's an alley in the back, and there was a couple parking spots. My car's parked back there. We go back there, and a couple of guys come out. It's Tomato Duplenty and KK Barrett. They introduced themselves to us, and they're like from a band called the Screamers. And also there was Jenny Lenz, a photographer. And if you check out her book called Punk Pioneers, there's photos. There's photos of us talking to the Germs at Bomb, and the show with Captain Sensible playing with us on stage. Also, I turned to leave, and I looked. My car was this. My grandfather had given me his old Mercury. It was a '65 Mercury Marauder or Monterey 2-door hardtop. It's real cool, but it was painted with like dark Earlshire green kind of paint job, and it was kind of banged up a little bit, but it was really cool car. And I noticed on the front of the grill, there's some smeared peanut butter there. I wonder where that came from. So, well, that night, and in the audience, apparently it was just musicians and some photographers and some artists and people, in the music industry. That night, everyone went home, started a band, and this was the beginning. This was the beginning of the punk rock scene in LA. Thank you.